Good morning. I'm Malcolm Graham-Wood, and I'm here at Core Finance for my regular CEO interview. Today, my guest is Manuel Zúñiga, who is the CEO of PetroTal Group. Welcome, Manuel. Great to see you.
The same here.
And thank you for coming over to London to see us. As always, I like to be able to get to know a bit about the company, and PetroTal is an exciting company with a lot to tell about. Could you give us an overview of the PetroTal business, just to start off with, please?
Well, yes, of course, and thank you again for having me here. PetroTal was set up 7 years ago as an oil company. It's publicly traded. We trade in London, in Toronto, as well as in the U.S. We are now the largest crude oil producer in Peru. This year, we're guiding for more than 20,000 barrels of oil per day. We're located operations in the Amazon jungle of Peru and trying to make a difference on behalf of all of the citizens and populations near us. And, as always say, we work for the benefit of all. Of course, it started with our shareholders.
Excellent. You've been in London for the last few days. You've just recently announced your 2025 budget with guidance for analysts as to where you might be going this year. Why don't you talk me through the plans for 2025?
Well, we put the guidance this year on CapEx. We announced that we plan to invest $140 million. And in projects, we have Block 95, the Bretaña oil field, that is our core asset. We recently did an acquisition in the southern part of Peru called the Los Angeles field in Block 131. And so combined, we're going to invest in both projects a total of $140 million. This is allowing us for the first time to guide above 20,000 barrels of production a day. It actually is between 21 and 23,000, the average of 22,000. That is having us very excited. So we've been growing production since the beginning, and I'm very happy to report that we are also a company debt-free, and we've been paying consistent dividends on a yield of 11 to 13%, depending on the share price. So very happy with the story.
I'm not surprised, 24% increase on last year. Let's dig a bit deeper into what you're doing there. So by my calculation, you'll actually be drilling fewer wells, development wells, this year. You've got 4 on Bretaña and then some at Los Angeles. So just the 4 at Bretaña will keep you going.
And actually what we did last year, we announced that we were planning to bring a new drilling rig to Peru. So we accelerated some of the drilling that was going to happen on 2025 in 2024. We are actually completing the well 23H. They call it H because they're horizontal wells. We should complete that one in the next couple of weeks. And with that, we're going to demop the existing rig, and we're bringing a new rig from Houston that initially is going to go to Block 131 to drill a couple of wells in the Los Angeles field. And then by year end, we should bring it back to Bretaña to continue developing this growing field. And I'd like to highlight the fact that Bretaña initially started with 37.5 million barrels of estimated ultimate recovery. Right now, we're going to be approaching the 130 million of ultimate recovery. We just produced 23 million barrels. So there's a lot of oil to be developed. The field has grown, and we're very happy about that. So it's going to require a couple of more years of development, and then having the free cash flow for Bretaña for the future.
Exciting, very exciting. Can I ask you 1-2 questions about that? So the new rig will go straight to Los Angeles 131. Existing field, are they development wells, appraisal, or are they just going straight into production?
They are going to be development wells. The Los Angeles field has 4 producing wells. Nowadays produces 650 barrels per day. Our plan is to bring it back up to the 4,000 barrels per day level. Important to highlight that field has relatively new production facilities, fully automated, capable of handling 5,500 barrels of oil per day. So it's really a good opportunity for us to step in, do a couple of wells, In the producing formation, there's a couple of formations deeper that have potential. They were previously penetrated by other wells. So we're looking at that and seeing the potential of the area and keeping in mind that just a 2-hour drive going south, we have our Block 107 with the larger Shaky Cametza prospect. We're positioning ourselves in the Ucayali Basin. So we also signed a couple of technical evaluation agreements, basically reconstituting what used to be a large block, Block 131. So I'm very excited about the possibilities in the future in that area.
So the rig will go after it's drilled. It'll go back to Britannia field.
That's right.
And are you only keeping the one rig? Once you've got the new one going, are you keeping the other one, or are you?
No, we're gonna release.
Just run the one on.
Release that other one, and did use the new one that we bought at an excellent price, which will allow us to lower the cost of future Britannia wells. And also lower emissions, and sound emissions, noise emissions. So it's actually a fantastic rig for us to be able to have that as part of our assets.
And so you mentioned Block 107 exploration. I was going to talk about it later, but now you mentioned it. I thought we'd catch up. Well, so tell me about Block 107 and the exploration. It's a pure exploration play.
It is a true wildcat. There's no question about that. We like the structure. It could have potentially several 100 million barrels of light oil potential. That's the way we interpret the data. We've been doing additional analysis. We also recently got an extension to drill the exploration well until the beginning of 2027. We have 2 full years, which is fantastic. And we are now getting ready to do a process to farm out and see to bring up a partner. Especially now that we are positioning ourselves in that basin, I think we will have a better chance to bring a good partner to join on this.
And do you think that will be drilling in 2026 or 2027?
It should be by the end of 2026 to give us a chance then to do the follow-up well, because it's a 2-well commitment.
Yeah, and that's assuming that, because it's early days, you mustn't get overexcited about what is exploration prospect.
Exactly.
You mentioned you have an extensive work program at Britannia. So what I wanted to know about that is you talked about the erosion control measures that you're doing, and I saw the pictures on the presentation you made. It's very impressive, very big sort of. Now tell me, I'm probably being stupid about this, but is that to create something so that the field is technically really sound for a long period of time, or is it to make it possible to extend it or to expand the facilities on?
Well, the field it originally was set up adjacent to the river. And these are very strong rivers. We are next to the Ucayali River, that when it not too far upriver downriver joins the Marañón River, forms the mighty Amazon River, and the erosion is happening, for thousands of years. You see the ox lakes when you look at satellite pictures. So it was a matter of time before we had to come up with a solution, a permanent solution. So it's to protect the facilities. We have invested quite a bit on wells and facilities to be able to produce 20,000 barrels of oil per day, and also to continue expanding. We will need to expand the camp. It's a very small camp. It's only 12 hectares. And we're going to add probably another 12 or hectares because the field has grown so much. Field is 6,000 hectares large. But again, the reserves are the ones that have grown quite a bit. So we have an asset that we know well, that is very prolific. So we're confident that, investing additional capital because we know the returns are quite fast. These wells usually pay out in 3 months or less. So they're fantastic wells.
Excellent. Now, while we're on that, you'll be producing 23,000 barrels a day at Britannia. You've always talked about the central processing facility. The work you've been doing is now pushing that up to be able to do 35,000, is it? Or tell me how the facilities look at?
The way I used to explain when we started the company 7 years ago, at that time, the certified reserves on the case of the 2P, which is proof and probable, or the 3P, proof, probable, and possible, were to drill a total of 12 wells in the 2P case or 20 wells on the 3P case. And I always mention these wells, the Vivian Formation is quite permeable, supported by a strong aquifer, so you're going to be dealing with lots of fluids. On average, these wells produce about 10,000 barrels of fluid per day. Yeah. So you have 20 wells, you're going to be managing 200,000 barrels of fluid a day. Depending on the oil cut, and amazingly, now, later this year, we will have enough facilities to manage 170,000 barrels of water a day, plus 32,000 barrels of oil a day. So that's 202,000. That used to be our most optimistic case at the beginning of the company on the 3P case. Now the 3P has, as of the end of 2023, a total of 36 wells, which tells you that if we develop fully the field, we're going to be managing in the future 360,000 barrels of fluid.
Water reinjection or disposal.
Water disposal is going to be key, because in the old times they used to dispose of the water, which has 50,000 parts per million of salt into the river. Of course, now we put it back into the reservoir. It's a highly permeable reservoir, so the water disposal wells can handle 40 to 50,000 barrels per day. So we don't need that many wells, but at the end, we're going to have a plant to manage about 360,000. So we pace ourselves. We drill wells, 4 per year. We add some facilities. So this is going to base the fact that we're now completing well 23. We have probably another 2-3 years of additional development, and from then on, we let it run. And and I don't say free cash flow from then on, because we've been free cash flowing for the last few years, or we've been paying dividends for the last couple of years. So the company, as I mentioned earlier, debt-free, paying dividends.
That's my next question. But before I finish on that one, just finally on Britannia, over the years, you've had a much better relationship with the locals. You've had your social contract in place, and you don't have problems as you grow Britannia. So is everything settled now with as much as it ever could be? You'll never be perfect.
Well, I always tell investors, I'm always very upfront, and I always tell investors, don't be surprised that somebody tries to create havoc. But now the beauty is that we have the population in protecting us. That's key. Yeah. And even more, as you know, we help change the canon distribution law, where more of the money that the central government sends back to the region stays in the producing districts, because in the past they hardly got any money. And we set up this 2.5% social trust fund, following the Alaska model or the Norwegian model. And that has really impacted positively. People are happy. So I'll tell you this, on Monday, there was a meeting sponsored by the governor of the region. There were 1,000 people or almost 1,000 people that came from all of the producing districts and provinces of the region of Loreto. and the message was very clear. And the keynote speaker was the ex-finance minister that at one time was a director of PetroTal, who helped me change the law on the canon distribution and set up the 2.5%. That he said, we need to replicate what PetroTal has done in the Puñahua district. There is peace, there is progress, there are investments, people are happy, and we believe that model should be replicated not only in the region of Loreto, but all of Peru. So making a difference, doing good for everybody, so that's key. And that, of course, that's good for the investors as well. Yeah. So I'm very happy, that we have managed that. There may be issues in the future, don't be surprised, because there's always somebody creating havoc. Yeah. But we have had to manage the social issues. As you know, we have to deal also with, in the dry season, with low river levels.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah, and then Mother Nature with the erosion control. But I think investors know that we know how to manage all of these challenges.
You are
and doing it very successfully.
You certainly are managing them. I'm very sort of pleased to see how it's all working so well. So the rarity is growth of 20% or more, healthy dividend, share buybacks. It is a rarity, and you are just knocking it down every year so far. You and I would call it operational excellence. You've got a good team, and you're delivering the goods. You're very financially sound. How long do you look out in terms of saying, I can still do 20% increase a year, and I can still pay these sort of dividends? The company is yielding 13 or 14%, which is great. Can you continue this for a little while?
Well, we are always, pushing the envelope. I remember when I was initially raising capital, our model showed that we could go to 12,000 barrels, and we are guiding for 22,000 now. If you look at our corporate presentation, it shows on a quarterly basis that the last quarter of this year will be averaging 24,500.
Yeah.
So, we are already pushing the envelope to see if we can achieve that 20% growth next year as well. And then to continue growing, having facilities to manage 32,000 barrels of oil, I give you a sense that maybe Bretaña can deliver a couple of other years of growth and production. But that's when we have to have the other assets coming in.
Well,
the Los Angeles field.
7131.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we are looking at other possibilities, the transactions, like the one in Block 131, which I like. We paid $5 million. And by the time we closed, we had already paid out. I like that. We have facilities in place. So that's the type of deals that we are always looking into. I hope that our investors see that we're very steadfast. We don't jump to opportunity. We're very cautious, and then we strike when we see the opportunity has come.
And very well, indeed, if I may say so. You mentioned the word average. So one of the things over the years in particular, I know one or two of the shareholders have come to me and said that the summer levels of the rivers get low, and it affects your ability to export crude from the Britannia field. I noticed in the last couple of years that you've got it's got a bit better. You are adding more export routes. You're trying different sort of pilots and trials and everything else. What are your plans for the? Can you get around it at all, or will you be able to one day? It won't affect you at all.
It's
local refinery.
Again, we've done one thing very important, is to optimize the export route via Brazil. As you know, our trading partner, Novum, that is based in Houston, they buy the oil FOB. So 90% of the oil is exported via Brazil. So we've been optimizing that route. Last year, it was the driest dry season in the last 100 years in the Amazon River. And amazingly, we were able to top our top guidance of 17,500. We ended up at 17,773 average for the year. People were flabbergasted. How should you manage that? And we say, well, for example, nowadays the tankers that come into the Manaus town in the Amazon River, they park in the middle, and then we fill them up in the middle. We have the permit now to do that. In the past, they had to wait for a place in the port. So also, when they cross the border, we have optimized that. So the round trip for this year, we're going to lower it down even more. So that allows us then to say, we did 17,000 last year, 17,700. We can do maybe 20,000. Some of the production is going to come from the new field, the Los Angeles field, that Peru, that owns the Quito refinery, that's where the 10% of the oil goes, has told us, because that Los Angeles oil is 40 API gravity and Bretaña is 19, you say, if you increase production, we will blend it with Bretaña, and we may be able to take more oil in Iquitos, maybe another 2,000 barrels. All of that helps. Of course, Iquitos is where we have our best netback. So it's a win-win for us. Yes. So we are always trying to optimize. For the future, as we want to continue growing at this pace of the 20%, we're going to have to go back to the pipeline, to the ONP that is also owned by Peru.
Yeah, and you're not using that.
No. So we've been able to accomplish all of this for the growth on production for the last 3 years without the pipeline. We used to put oil in the pipe.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, because in the old days, one of the things that people asked was, you had to wait, you put the crude oil in the pipeline here, and it went all the way down to the other end, but you never got paid for it until it came out of the other end.
Exactly. And we had signed a contract with Peru that allowed us to sell at pump station 1.
Yeah.
And then when the oil eventually was sold at the port of Bayover, there was a price settlement, which created a liability, a contingent liability
So there
on
wasn't
pricing. So what we are working with Peru now, and I'm confident that we will be able to reach an agreement, is to cancel that contract that we signed before, and from now on, use the concept of use of oil, whereby, given that the oil in the pipe is mostly Peru's, they own that working capital. If I deliver 10,000 barrels of oil at pump station 1, they should give us that same day 10,000 on the other side.
Yeah.
And that should be the way to go. That will allow us to start injecting 5 to 10,000, and as we grow production even more into the pipe. Okay. And we want to do that this year. It's not in our guidance. The guidance for this year does not include the pipe. No. But I'm pushing to have it ready. So ideally, by the time the dry season comes in August, September, October, we're ready to go back to the OMP.
And the relationship with Peru must be good now.
It is. Everybody in Peru now looks at PetroTal with this vision that we have, of making a difference, that we are actually doing this for the benefit of everybody. Yeah. And that's very important. Otherwise, they don't listen to you. So now they see that we've been doing this all alone.
So one of the interesting things you say is that you've always thought, all CEOs do think, you've always thought that the share price is undervalued. And I'm sure that's right, because you've said that most of the analysts in the city have a value of 100p or more. My target price is actually 150, which is a considerable uplift on what it is at the moment. Tell me, that can be done through organic and the work that you're doing already, and it'll just be a see-through, read-through situation. Or it could be an M&A situation. You could go and do inorganic growth through mergers and acquisitions in, obviously, in Peru, if there is any availability, or maybe even outside. So, 2 questions actually. First of all, what are you thinking about in terms of M&A for PetroTal? And secondly, as someone once said to me, you want to make sure you're the diner, not the dinner. And you want to make sure that you're making the acquisitions, not being the subject of them. So tell me, what do the board, when the board sit down, you've got a great board, by the way. When the board sit down, do they talk about M&A?
We discuss everything with the board. We have fantastic meetings. And something, again, that I always emphasize is we do what is best for everyone. It cannot be best for Manolo. No, it has to be for everybody. That's key. And so if I have to be in the dish, so be it. But I think the philosophy of the company should allow us to continue growing. But we are very concerned that the share price is not reflecting this growth. And I understand that we have had surprises. Sometimes bad surprises. Low river levels, social strikes, the erosion control, and the fact that this year investors expected lower capex. So we need to avoid having that type of surprises. We need to guide them better into the future. They know that we have a fantastic asset in the Bretaña field that we have now started to add more. So on the M&A, as I mentioned, we continue to look. In that meeting that I was telling you that happened in Iquitos on Monday, the 5 people from Congress were there listening to this. Right. And at the end, they have decided to set up a technical committee to revise the hydrocarbon law to make it more enticing for companies. We have excellent royalties. Some of the other contracts don't. There's thinking, let's copy what Block 95 has. But I would like to have an extension of the contracts. They're looking at that as well. Yeah. So I think that things are going to be well set up in Peru, and we know so well that's where we could look at other opportunities for us to go in and add some production in the future. But what I think the game changer for us is going to be going back to the OMP. You know, that is the people will feel comfortable that we have a third market, a strong one that will allow us to reach the levels of production that we want to do in the next couple of years. You know, that without having to do M&A, but we are looking at that but mostly in the Peru area. You know, that's what we're looking at. And we've done in the Los Angeles field.
Yeah,
but a good one.
Yeah. I can't imagine that much keeps you awake at night, so you sleep well because you've got such a fantastic company and everything's so well. Would it be oil prices, Donald Trump, what's the...
You know, I'll tell you the erosion project, it keeps me awake because it's Mother Nature and water. Yeah. The water, you know, is so aggressive. And so now I feel much more at ease that we have a good plant. That project, as we have reported, is between $65 million and $75 million. So it's a big project. Investors see that we're investing a lot of capital, but no return. It's for protection. But fortunately, now we have bought all of the steel, which is a quarter of the cost, is being already secure. Right. So that helps. The designs are fantastic. We're already starting construction. So by March or April, we should be setting up the first of 5 breakwaters. So that I want to see them, you know, all set up and feel comfortable. You know, but that worries me. Otherwise, prices, we have set up a budget, and now we have that. We're hedging by now about on a costless collar about 40% of the production. So to make sure that we can pay our dividends, you know, for us, dividends are key, and some of the buybacks that we've been doing. And we always try to maintain $60 million of unrestricted cash liquidity.
Very strong position.
So all of that, you know, help us. I don't worry about oil prices or Mr. Trump, you know.
Right.
But erosion is that I want that to go away.
If you're going to lose sleep, I don't think erosion is it, because as you say, it's nature.
That's right.
But we're running out of time. We've had a fantastic chat. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Always my last question is to ask you to sum up. Tell me where you would like to see PetroTal in 12 to 18 months' time, towards the end of next year, and how do you see everything going?
Well, based on the guidance that we have provided this year, and you get a sense of what will happen the following year, in the next 18 months, the erosion control project should be completed. So now I can sleep at ease. We should be producing north of 25,000 barrels of oil per day, ramping up, including the Los Angeles field, and that those two alone, you know, will allow us to look at some of these other M&A opportunities. And then start focusing on some of the upside that we have on the exploration side. You know, we like to be able to have the ability with permits, which in Peru take a long time, to go and explore in Block 95, Block 107, and that in two areas that we have taken that are around the Los Angeles field. So lots of potential, lots of opportunities to do good for everyone, starting with our shareholders.
Indeed, thank you. It's been lovely to see you, Manolo. Thank you for coming in. I've known you since 7 years ago, since you first came over to London, and we first met on your first visit.
That's right.
And it's been a joy to do it. So thank you very much indeed for being my guest today.
Much appreciated. And I would always like to thank my investors for the support, you know.
Of course. So I'm Malcolm Grahamwood, and I have been doing my CEO interview here at Core London. My guest today has been Manuel Zúñiga, who is the CEO of PetroTal Corp. And I'm sure you've, having listened to what he's had to say, you'll see that it's a bright, inspiring future with full of excitement, and from the team who've done very well in all those 7 years. I'm delighted to have seen him today. Thank you very much for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye now.